about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is asking ICE agents in the Chicago area to halt and not continue their work until after Halloween. He is citing that there was a children's safety issue where Customs and Border Protection agents had deployed tear gas, and it was a neighborhood where kids were preparing for a Halloween parade. Now, I don't know if any kids got injured, but Governor Pritzker is telling ICE it's Halloween, so take a day or two off. Now, what he said to Kristi Noem is, I am respectfully requesting you suspend enforcement operations from Friday, October 31st to Sunday, November 2nd, in and around homes, schools, hospitals, parks, houses of worship, and other community gatherings where Halloween celebrations are taking place. Illinois families deserve to spend Halloween weekend without fear. He says no child should be forced to inhale tear gas or other chemical agents while trick-or-treating in their own neighborhood. Now, what comes to mind with this, I see what he's saying, but it's a little, I guess, counterintuitive, because the kids deserve to trick or treat in a safe arena. And if there is an illegal drug ring or cartel members or people that could unfortunately, use these kids to shield themselves, or that's like telling cops, all right, guys, we don't want you to arrest any criminals or sex offenders or rapists or whatever. And I'm not saying the illegal immigrants are, but an analogy is, we don't want you to be arresting anybody during Halloween. Let these kids go up to these homes unfettered, unobstructed, and enjoy Halloween. Now, if I was a parent, I'm like, do we know if that house is safe? I mean, when we go trick-or-treating with our kids, we're assuming that the neighborhood we're going into has been vetted. Somebody is ensuring that there's nobody there that'll grab your child, nobody that'll assault your child, give them razor blades in their candy. So that is a little counterintuitive, because if ICE needs to be in an area and you see ICE go to an area, that means there's something going down. There's something not right about an individual in that area. Now, Kristi Noem, of course, shut that down. She said we are absolutely not willing to put on pause any work that we will do to keep communities safe. She said at a news conference, the fact that Governor Pritzker is asking for this is shameful, and I think unfortunate that he doesn't recognize how important the work is, what we do to make sure we're bringing criminals justice and getting them off the streets, especially when we're going to send all of our kiddos out on the streets and going to events enjoying the holiday season. Now, if Governor Pritzker is not alluding to the criminals, and if he is alluding to these are kids of illegal immigrants, then that also begs the question, what sort of a situation do we have here? I mean, how many people are living in this country that shouldn't be? I mean, we're assuming millions, but you don't see Canada pausing their enforcement efforts. You don't see other countries. They have deportation. You're here illegally, you get deported. But ICE is saying they are primarily concentrating on criminals. So you would think that would be continue your work, because criminals don't stop on Halloween. Now, for those of you saying, "Oh, Dr. Daliah, please," the average criminal, they're not going to do anything on Halloween. Well, did you hear about this? Apparently, in Michigan, there was allegedly a Halloween weekend terrorist attack. Several people got arrested. FBI Director Kash Patel announced this early today. Subjects were allegedly plotting a violent attack over Halloween weekend. He thanked FBI agents and law enforcement everywhere for the work. Now, we don't know who these individuals were, if they were illegal immigrants, if they were cartel, if they were just U.S. citizen criminals. But criminal activity doesn't stop because it's Halloween. So I'm a little confused by the messaging here. Everybody should be on the same page that criminals get out. I mean, if I was governor and police and ICE say, look, there's operations we need to do. I mean, there's some bad stuff going on, and we're, and we will show you who we arrested. You will see. I mean, I'm going to be like, thank you, and please be safe. And if there has to be an operation that needs to be cornered off, or there needs to be a perimeter for, law enforcement will put up a perimeter. They will tell kids trick-or-treating not to go into this neighborhood. Now, I understand ICE agents sometimes have to have the element of surprise, but they are not going to make a move and get into a gunfight with Tren de Aragua with little kids there. But if there ends up being a perimeter, they'll put up a perimeter. And so, I'm not sure what these individuals in Michigan were planning to do. But according to Kash Patel, FBI director, he said through swift action and close coordination with our local partners, a potential act of terror was stopped before it could unfold. The vigilance of this FBI prevented what could have been a tragic attack, and thanks to dedication, Michigan will have a safe and happy Halloween. Amen. So, crime doesn't stop, sadly. And we need to be diligent. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So some of your comments to me about questions, as it pertains to next week's election with New York City, is how one of you said that you're going to blame Curtis Lewa. Curtis Lewa was too stubborn to bow out. He's not going to win anyway. And if he wins, Curtis Lewa is going to, obviously be, not number one in his book, shall we say. And I've talked about this, before in terms of, look, one, if Curtis Lewa even dropped out now, we're not going to see the effect of that. We're not because he's already on the ballot. So that it's sadly he's been on the ballot. He would have had to drop out a long time ago, and he didn't want to. He was the only Republican candidate, and so did he have a chance? No. Does he have a chance? No. I mean, he's polling better than a lot of us thought he would. But look at who he's up against. I mean, he's up against Andrew Cuomo, who wasn't very popular, and Zohran Mamdani. But if he wasn't in the race, would Andrew Cuomo win? And now that the race is tightening, a lot of people are thinking, this Mamdani thing could go away if Andrew Cuomo wins. I don't think it's going to go away. You have people that want socialism. And when you tell a bunch of individuals that this is New York, it's expensive. The rich get a much nicer life in New York than non-rich. And, even middle income struggle in New York. That's just the way New York is. That's just the way San Francisco is. They're just expensive. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's getting expensive here. It's getting ridiculous. When the average young couple can't buy a car, and I'm not advocating for socialism. I love capitalism. But the younger generation, there was a Gen Z focus group ABC News is talking about. They're actually excited about Mamdani. The message of affordability, even though he's blowing it out of his rich peritoneum, he's not going to make New York affordable. Now, I mean, you could try rent freezing. You could try taxing the hell out of the rich, but you're not going to get the prices down to Topeka, Kansas prices. It's not going to happen. And so when you have young individuals, researchers from the Harvard Institute of Politics asked the group age 22 to 29 about the biggest stressors of their life and their preferences, they're liking Mamdani. And they think he's a Democrat. So is the Democratic Party, and we know that the Democratic Party has changed. The Bill Clinton presidency was not the same as the JFK presidency. And the Biden presidency was definitely unrecognizable as it pertains to being Democrat. Unless Democrats are now changing to no. I know we were pro women's sports and women privacy and Title IX and all that, but no. Biological men have every right to compete against women, unless that's what they're changing to. I mean, is it that, no, we're not necessarily going to be advocating for our underserved community and making sure they get their SNAP benefits. It's about ruining the Republicans and making Trump look bad. That's not the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is, look, we got benefits that we need to, we have military to protect. Let's make sure the government is funded. We're going to do our job. Democrats do their jobs. The original Democrats did. And not this promoting violence and fighting and all the other stuff. And so, if Mamdani wins, and as we're seeing with the polls, it's not cheating It's people are flipping voting for him. I mean, if Republicans are really worried, or Andrew Cuomo supporters, or anybody who's anti-socialist is really worried about Mamdani winning, then they could very easily say, you know what? All right, I'm going to vote for the candidate that has a better chance. I'm not going to vote for Sliwa, and I'll vote for Cuomo. I mean, the fact that this race is so dependent on a candidate dropping out means there's something wrong with the race. It should have been a slam dunk. When Trump was running for office, did we have to ask independents and everyone to leave? If the country wanted Trump, they're going to vote for Trump. And they did. If New York wants Andrew Cuomo back, he's going to win. But if New Yorkers want Mamdani, he's going to win. It should never be up to this where, Curtis Sliwa ruined it for everybody. And I know Curtis, smart guy. Would it have helped him dropping out? It probably would have helped, yes. But if Andrew Cuomo is struggling that much, and you forget the reason why we're in this situation with Mamdani is because Andrew Cuomo failed in the primary. He failed miserably in the primary. And so that's on New York. That's on the Democratic Party. The Republicans rarely win. I know, Rudy Giuliani did an amazing job as a mayor, but it's a different time. New Yorkers are not, in a position where the Republican Party will ever hold a lead. Or in the near future. So, does that mean the Republican just bows out? Many Republicans would say no. It shouldn't be this tight of a race unless people really feel that Mamdani and all his promises and all his threats of taxing the rich is going to really make everything more affordable. And when you have the younger generation saying, this is what I want, I've been saying for years, guys, be prepared. Medicine is going to become socialized. Our country could even become socialized. Because if that's what the voters want, I don't want that. But when you look at what voters are dealing with, if they're thinking, look, I can't afford, I'm supposed to buy an electric car and it's $50,000 and I can't afford that. I can't afford rent. I can't get a job. If they don't feel that capitalism is helping them and they are going to do better under a socialist model, they're going to vote for that. And we did it to ourselves. Why the hell are iPhones in the thousands? I used to be able to go to Circuit City or Gemco or Kmart and buy a phone. I could get it for $8. That was a lot of money still for me. But I could shove it into my wall. As long as I didn't call anybody long distance, I could barely pay. Remember, I was making $4 an hour at Jack in the Box. I could barely pay for my phone bill. And I had roommates to split it with me. And I could, be on a phone. It's not like that anymore. The way we have done things is so ridiculous. You want to go to McDonald's, you need to shell out at least $10. That isn't working for the average American. And so if you want to stop socialism, if you want to stop future Mamdanis and other socialist type politicians, you need to figure out a way to make things affordable. But you're not going to. Because you like tech. Because you need tech. You're preferring AI. You're preferring talking to a doctor online and not seeing a doctor in person. Well, what's happening to those in-person doctors? They're closing up. You're liking the apps and all the goodies you get on your apps. So you don't care if you see a person at the front desk. We aren't asking for people. We're hiding from people. And the fewer people that get hired, the fewer money they have. And at the next election, the next Democratic primary, they're going to be bringing up, again, universal income, where we have to give people money. 1 in 8 people are on SNAP benefits. We really have that many. We have millions of people requiring extra money to eat. This is why people are asking for socialism. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we got a lot of comments when I was talking previously about truck drivers and many illegal immigrants driving trucks, not being able to speak the language. We talked about some accidents that had happened in California and Florida. And when we have a doctor that listens to the show, he says he does DOT physicals. And not only do many of his patients not speak the language, they also are not very healthy. High blood pressure, diabetes, out of control. He says he fails many of them because they don't satisfy the medical requirements. That's an interesting point. You know, not only are there concerns with can they understand the signs and the laws and the nuances, as it pertains to bus stops and the American laws. But if people are not necessarily getting the medical care that Americans used to get, they don't get now after Obamacare. It's a mess. The average person doesn't go and see a doctor. There are health standards that have to be met for you to get your DOT physical, and the doctor needs to follow those to a T. If not, he can do a temporary, 3-month license, or you fail. Until you get your health, your blood pressure up, or you're not on a medicine that can hurt your performance. So, the process has a lot of checks and balances. And listen, when there is somebody who doesn't speak the language and is trying to feed his family, one of the reasons why we're in this situation here. I mean, my father was an immigrant, learned the language, took the classes to become a citizen, passed a citizenship test, then marries my mom after all that is said and done. And marrying my mom was the hardest part of all of that. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. Somebody wanting to come to America, feed their family, give them a better life. I mean, God bless them for trying to do the right thing by their family. It kills me that we have individuals that have to flee their countries, because of cartel, because of persecution. I mean, that is why America is such a wonderful country, because we open our arms to those individuals, but they have to go by the legal process. You go by the illegal process, there's a problem. You do that in any other country, you're deported. And America is no different. unless Biden's in office. And so, I understand these are individuals trying to support their family and also God bless our truck drivers. However, the reason why we've been in this situation, because we were like, how the hell did California approve all this? Why? What's going on? Well, because if you remember, there was a truck driver shortage after COVID, right? There was the lockdowns and all the other BS that happened. And a lot of the younger drivers, you have older drivers who, God bless them, I mean, they struggle health-wise. It's not easy to keep up your health and keep up your exercise and be able to eat a healthy diet while you're on the road for 11 hours, 14 hours a day. It's not easy. And so, unfortunately, many older drivers said, you know what? All right, I guess this is my cue to leave. And so many older drivers did not return back to the trucking workforce. Then legalized marijuana was very ubiquitous and easy to get during the lockdown. Your dentist had to be closed, but the marijuana dispensary was open. So a lot of individuals, especially the younger ones who aren't working, are going to enjoy recreational marijuana, which is their right. The problem is if you use marijuana, you can't drive. And you had a huge, jump in the population that now became ineligible to operate a vehicle. So we need truckers. And what did some trucking companies do, or some states do? They go, look, I mean, we need truckers. You're going to pass your drug test. You're going to pass the test. If you could do that, you got a job. But somehow, people who were not supposed to be in this country somehow ended up, getting licensed as well. Or they missed their court dates, or and them not learning the language. Were they lazy? Did they just not have an opportunity? Is it difficult to have, learning English as a second language classes these days? I don't know. But the problem we have is we don't have enough truck drivers, and to fill the spots, you had people willing to work, wanting to feed their families, that stepped in. Unfortunately, if you can't read the language, if you can't read the signs, you're in trouble. I took my mom to Israel. One of the first things I did before I left this country is I learned how to read the signs. Now, I know some Hebrew, but not enough for all the nuances. And so I, did not want to be driving my mom, and I drove her all up and down that country. I did not want to be in a position where I was causing any accidents, and I wanted to make sure I, was safely following the roads and safely following the laws. How did I do it? Well, I used my limited knowledge. I used Google Translate, and I learned what those signs were, where to park, all that. Because I would be doing no good to anybody, going there and messing up or getting into an accident. Not to mention, I'd probably get kicked out of the country. So, interestingly, another one of our listeners is saying that this is what they're seeing, which is, and I can't verify this, but one of my listeners said that at these truck stops, what ICE agents are doing to ensure that the drivers are qualified is they're there at the truck stop and they are showing them a children's book. This is fascinating. So they're showing them a children's book and seeing if they could read it. If they can't, then they ask for their papers, and all the other sort of, the process starts there. Now, I can't verify that that's happening. And, truck stops are a necessary stop for truckers. But if they're trying to get people who are not qualified off the roads, apparently, again, I can't verify this, but this is what we're hearing is happening. And, it's interesting because you're seeing videos of truckers going up to other truckers saying, look, and they're like, you don't speak English. So it's frustrating. I want people to be able to feed their families, but I also understand that the trucking industry has such a reputation for its safety, for its work ethic, for the values that these truckers hold. And when I see a trucker on a road, I'm biased. I'm like, that guy's following the rules. I wave to them. I make sure I don't stop short in front of their truck, because you're not supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to make sure that they can, drive and be able to, not have to bang into you. I make sure they have plenty of room on the road. I understand that when they need to merge or turn, that they might be going into your lane. Give them room. I saw one guy make one hell of a turn, and this was yesterday, and I was like, damn, he really knows how to operate that vehicle. These rigs are huge. And there's so many different kinds that people can get licensed in. And I got to tell you, it's an art to be able to drive these things. So when I see these truckers on the road, I'm like, okay, this is somebody who knows the laws. If that changes, people need to be aware that it might not be the same standards anymore. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So a new study has said that children may be more likely to have autism or other neurodevelopmental disorders if their mother had COVID-19 infection while they were pregnant. Now, researchers from Massachusetts General Hospital analyzed more than 18,000 births that occurred at Mass General between March 2020 and May of 2021. And they looked at the records for laboratory-confirmed COVID-19 tests among the mothers and for neurodevelopmental diagnoses among the children up through age 3. They found that children born to mothers who had COVID-19 during pregnancy were significantly more likely to be diagnosed with a neurodevelopmental disorder than those born to mothers who did not have an infection while pregnant. More than 16% versus less than 10%, or a 1.3 times higher risk after adjusting for the risk factors. Now, they say overall differences in risk were more pronounced among boys and in cases where the mom had COVID-19 in the third trimester, as opposed to early on in the pregnancy. Previous studies have suggested that male fetal brains are more susceptible to maternal immune responses, according to the authors of the new study, and the third trimester is, quote, a critical window for brain development. Now, the most common diagnoses included disorders in speech, motor function, development, and autism. About 2.7% of children born to mothers who had COVID-19 while pregnant were diagnosed with autism, compared to those 1.1% of others, according to this study published in the Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. So, maternal COVID-19 infection affecting the fetal brain is a concern. However, I know some of you, especially those of you who kind of like to think critically, like I do, a question some of you are probably asking is, did those moms who had COVID take Tylenol? Now, I've said this before. For years, we've known that acetaminophen, main ingredient of Tylenol, or paracetamol overseas, can have been linked to neurodevelopmental disorders. I do not believe that the 1 in 31 children right now that are that have autism all got it from Tylenol use. I think there are other factors, but do I feel that pregnant moms need to be aware that there could be potential risks? Abso-flippin-lutely. And so when I had COVID, I was hitting Tylenol all the time. The headache with COVID was so damn bad. It was really bad, that headache, which made me nervous, and it kind of, because I was like, why is this virus affecting the olfactory nerve, affecting our taste abilities and our sinus abilities? Because, boy, I can tell you, that sucker went straight to the brain. In fact, I had the headache before I had the cough. COVID sucked. And I was hitting Tylenol left and right. Now, I wasn't pregnant. And so a question I have is, if they think COVID affected women, causing them to have higher rates of autism, is it because they were hitting the Tylenol more? Is it because they were hitting the cough and cold medication? Is it because they weren't getting enough oxygen? COVID really limited my oxygen. I'd feel winded going upstairs. I would, when I was on a plane, I could barely breathe. And then with the mask on top of it. I mean, that was really concerning. And so COVID's bad. I think we all agree with that. But where some people think this is going is pregnant women need the COVID vaccine. Okay, I'm mixed on that. I think the COVID vaccine saves lives. And I am very glad that we have the COVID vaccine. But I don't know if we have enough safety data saying that the vaccine is something that should be widespreadly used in a pregnant woman. Right now, we're starting to deal with, which, by the way, the data's been out for a while, on how to approach Tylenol use in pregnant women, our cell phone use. Why is autism at such a high rate? What are pregnant women being exposed to? That this is the time where people are starting to challenge, okay, are we really supposed to be doing the COVID vaccine? Routinely. Now, if you are a woman who is at very high risk for COVID complications, and we think that you are not going to make it through the pregnancy if you get COVID, then absolutely your medical provider is going to be recommending you get the vaccine. We do not want anybody dying of COVID. You are no good to your baby if you're dead. But when you have average healthy women, that's where the question is. Do we vaccinate everybody? And then also, when I got the COVID vaccine, it was not, okay, thank you, I feel good. I feel like I could go run a mile. I was leveled when I got that COVID booster, and I ended up taking Tylenol because I had chest pain, breast pain, swelling. Now, I'm not saying, again, somebody needs a COVID vaccine, they need to get the COVID vaccine. But we ought to be really, really careful with this widespread sort of, everybody needs, X, Y, and Z. One thing I've learned in medicine is it's not one size fits all. You would think that would be obvious. But interestingly, there's some nuances. Now, I am anti-smoking. I don't think we should tax smokers. Those of you that served tours of duty and you ended up picking up the smoking habit, God bless you for your great work. I don't think you should be taxed. I don't think you should be punished, vilified. But if you do smoke, I am going to recommend you try and quit. And I'm going to do what I can to help you quit because I think smoking is bad for you. But not highly publicized are studies and musings in the scientific world of how there are some conditions that smokers do better with. One study, which really confuses us, is Parkinson's, where they say they see fewer Parkinson's in people who smoke. Now, I'm not 100% convinced by that because I remember my grandmother having Parkinson's-like disease, and she was a heavy smoker. So there is no way anybody in the medical community is going to say that. But we also have found that certain inflammatory bowel diseases appear to be less in some who smoke, and some who smoke. However, there's also other bowel conditions like colon cancer you could get when you smoke. So the risks outweigh the benefits. But then a fascinating study came out early on in the COVID pandemic where they found that these chain smokers whose lungs were all scarred up and dry weren't appearing to get the cytokine storm and the wet inflammatory drowning that a lot of COVID people were getting, suggesting that some smokers might have had some protection. Now, of course, that was immediately refuted because you had people who were smokers still dying of COVID. But I bring this up not because I want you to smoke. I don't want you to smoke. No smoking. It's bad for you. But we realize that there's different strokes for different folks. That for some people, the prostate cancer screening is going to be exactly what they need. For others, they might end up with horrible side effects from the radical prostatectomy. So, we learn as we go. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA1. That's 800-JBS-USA1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA1 today.